Hey, what up, YouTube and GT? It is Major G, and I'm doing something a little different today. I am sitting here next to. Let's try that again. Hey, I am sitting here next to. Okay. That was supposed to be. That was supposed to be Taylor from Finally Tailored, but I guess that's not going to work today. I guess it's just going to be me. Alright, so I just got out of Black Panther about an hour ago, and I wanted to do a little review on it. I came out here to Flagstaff. I'm sitting here in Flagstaff, and I think this is called Flagstaff Park. I'm not really sure. But yeah, so I definitely enjoyed Black Panther. I'm not gonna say it's the greatest movie ever created, because the plotline is fairly standard. I think the biggest thing about it is just the importance of the diversity within the film, which is that in general, especially in cinema, especially Western cinema, you don't really see brown faces outside of that are wealthy, that are educated, have intelligence, have culture, things like that, and that especially goes for blacks, and I think that's where a lot of the pride comes in when you see people going out to see this in the theaters, because of the significance of it. Thinking about it, I was trying to think about it on the way here. I think blacks are probably one of the fewest, in terms of when it comes to having a positive image in media, blacks are probably on the lowest end of the totem pole. I mean, generally when you see others, not generally, but it is possible to see other cultures in a positive light, being wealthy, educated, etc. I mean, when it comes to Latin America, you have that with Zorro. If you remember the Antonio Banderas Zorro movies, he was a wealthy playboy, very well educated, and if I remember correctly, I think there was a significant number of Latin actors and actresses in it. It's very easy to find, while they're not necessarily made here, it's very easy to get your hands on on Chinese films that display Chinese culture, wealthy, intelligent Chinese people. The same thing goes for Japanese. And in fact, I think some of those have actually been made over here when it comes to Asian films, and of course whites. But when it comes to the blacks, the only one I can think of that has not only that has a wealthy, educated, positive black protagonist with culture, the only thing I can think of is actually Coming to America, which is a comedy. And I think that's part of what it is. And even in Coming to America, you didn't really see that much culture in it, because like 95% of the movie takes place in New York City, whereas in this, like 80% of the, like 85 to 90% of the movie takes place in Wakanda, which of course is in Africa. And these are people who have never been taken over. They're the most technologically advanced culture on Earth, and they keep their traditions. And that's not generally something you see in media, especially Western media. So yeah, I mean, I like the movie. It was definitely fun. I'm planning to see it again, but I don't think it was the greatest movie ever, but I do think the importance is very, very high for people to see it and to take off some of those stereotypes, deflect some of those stereotypes, and because of partially because of Western media that that blacks have such a poor reputation around the world, whether or not we, have actually done something, because the only time you really see any is like on Cops. There was a really good skit on Mad TV some years back where Phil Lamar was doing an impression of Chris Rock, and he was talking about how there's no black people on TV. And then there's one part where he's going through all the different channels, and I mean, of course, it was an exaggeration, but yeah, it was. I mean, it was for the most part pretty true. He was saying, he was going through all the different channels, and he was talking about how, there's like no black people on these channels. UPN is the only one with black people, but they're underpaid. And then he says, and then the part he said that I'm thinking of is that, and then he goes to Fox, and he's like, Fox has got a lot of black people, but they're all on Cops. So yeah, like that. I mean, and then like when you look at a lot of movies, and TV shows, they're generally thugs, from the hood and things like that. So I mean, I think this is a good step in the right direction by portraying intelligent people of African background, especially when it comes to the fact that if you look for anything in terms of that references Africa in media, in general, it's all like poor people, and they're all shepherds and like that. Either it's that, or it takes place like 200 or 300 years ago, and they're still wearing their tribal clothes, and even in some there's some movies that still portray that, even though it's not really a thing. You go to any African city, and they're pretty contemporary. And like one of the ones I can think of right off the top of my head are like these disaster movies like Armageddon, and I think Independence Day did that. What was 2012? I think was another one where it's the 21st century, and they're like still showing people in tribal outfits. Like that's the only thing those are the only kind of people that live there. Yeah, so it was just very, very positive to see. Very uplifting, very uplifting. And I'm not saying that as someone of color, because I'm not that kind of person who is all like black power and all that. But objectively, it's just good for anyone to look up and see some sort of diversity, or see their people, the same kind of person that they are, whether they're brown, yellow, gay, transgender, whatever. Especially if it's a significant part of the population. I mean, I think it's black people are something like 30% of the. I think it was black people are like 30% of the U.S. population, or something like that. I might be off on that, but yeah, that's a significant part of the population that doesn't really see that never really sees themselves in positive light. So yeah, definitely good. I do recommend people see it. I mean, and especially since one of the reasons why a lot of studios don't generally show these kinds of things is because they think that they don't sell. They think that people of anything positive with a person of color in the lead or leads won't sell, and you got to show them that's not true. You gotta I want to see somebody brown in the lead. So yeah, honestly, and honestly, I think I was thinking about it during the end credits, and I think Jack, from what I read of it, from what I read of him, I think Jack Kirby would be extremely proud of this film. He would, it's something that he would have been extremely happy to see. You know, if he really is the guy who, when his editors saw him drawing Black Panther and said, hey, there's not enough white people, and he drew in Black Panther beating up KKK members. Like, yeah, that's, you know, if that's really the kind of guy he was, he would definitely be proud of this film. And it saddens me a little bit that he didn't get to see this movie, or he won't get to see this movie, because it's a good legacy that he's given to people. So yeah, that's probably about enough. I might have said quite enough about this. Yeah, so, you know, tell me what you guys thought in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and until next time, be excellent to one another, and party on, dudes.
If you've ever seen Beetlejuice, if you've ever seen the Beetlejuice cartoon, it's essentially the same thing, which was that instead of Lydia pulling Beetlejuice out into the real world, she would go into his world, and things would just go weird.